It's definitely raining outside, so if you hear any background noise, that would be it. Oh, and we also have a toddler, so that would also be the other background noise.
We're going to talk in a soft-spoken voice.
Really close. Now you are falling asleep.
And dreaming about cheese.
Oh, yes!
I am.
I am all the time.
Dreaming about cheese.
I want cheese right now. Yes. Hello, everybody.
Actually, interrupting you. This looks like a dream. This looks like...
It does.
It looks like a dream.
It's like a dream world.
Yeah.
It's like...
rolling hills.
Rolling hills of cheese. That's my dream. I don't know about you. That's my dream. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel today. My name is Carly.
And I'm Kim.
And today we're going to be reviewing the brand new 1 to 4 player game Fromage from Road to Infamy Games. Like I mentioned already, Fromage is a brand new title, a brand new game all about cheese making.
You're trying to be like the most industrious cheese creamery.
Yes, and it's amazing. I love that theme so much. So fantastic. And yeah, so we're going to be chatting about this game today, but before we kind of go into our thoughts and opinions, we're actually going to be giving you a really general overview of how this game plays, and then we'll come back here and share our thoughts on Fromage. Fromage is a simultaneous worker placement board game where players embody French cheesemakers aiming to craft, age, and sell artisan cheese to achieve the highest prestige. Designed for 1 to 4 players, this game offers a unique rotating board mechanism that simulates the aging process of cheese and presents dynamic strategic opportunities. The game comes with a rotating board that comprises 4 interlocking quadrants, each representing a distinct venue: festival, fromagerie, bistro, and villas. Each player receives 3 workers representing soft, hard, and blue cheese specialists, and 15 wooden cheese tokens in their chosen color. This game is full of simultaneous actions. Players will simultaneously place their workers on the quadrant facing them to either gather resources or make cheese. When gathering resources, you will place a worker on the resource tile to collect either fruit, livestock, structures, or order cards. When you are making cheese, you will place a cheese token and the corresponding worker on a venue spot to start the cheese production. After all actions are taken, the board then rotates 90 degrees clockwise. This rotation ages the cheeses and changes the available actions for each player. After the board has rotated, if any of your workers are facing you, you will then retrieve those workers to then be used again, leaving behind your colored cheese marker, fully claiming that location now. Bronze cheeses, they will be retrieved after 1 rotation, silver cheeses will be retrieved after 2 rotations, and gold cheeses will be retrieved after 3 rotations. The purpose behind where you place your cheese will change at each location. For the festival, you are aiming to create the largest group of adjacent cheeses for endgame points. At the fromagerie, you will be spreading cheese across shelves to gain resources and prestige. At the bistro, you will serve cheese pairings to tables, more pairings yield to higher points. And at the villas, you will place cheeses in regions on the map in France to gain customer tokens through area majority. This rich blend of strategy and thematic immersion causes a dynamic and engaging format for this game. Do you have what it takes to be the best cheesemaker? Alright, so I hope that overview kind of gives you a general idea of how this game plays. We're now going to kind of jump into our thoughts because we've played this game a lot of times. Honestly, we played this probably more than we normally do with our reviews. So we're going to share our thoughts now, chatting about, we're going to start by chatting about everything that we enjoyed about this game. Kim, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, so immediate first impression upon looking at it was that I was obsessed with the cover.
Yes.
There is something about the rolling hills of cheese and the little cows. The purple flowers on the sign were chef's kiss.
They're so cute. The whole cover
it
is
brings
just
it all
amazing.
together. And then I think did I put this on? I think I put it on favorite artwork.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Sorry, interrupting myself. And then also the uniqueness of the board too, like these pieces, how they come together. And like you can change them out for player count. I thought that was really clever. Based off of that too, like sometimes it annoys me when you have you block off places to accommodate for a 2-player game. Sometimes it feels like space is being wasted or it doesn't always translate well to a 2-player game. And this one, it did. I barely even noticed it, and I felt like I still had all the choices that I wanted to make, and it didn't make it feel like there was any dummy player going on.
I totally agree with you. I think it does adjust really well and really easily for other player counts. You basically decide how many people are playing, and then you just slot those in, and then you're ready to go.
Yep.
And then kind of touching on that, the solo mode works very well too in regards to, yes, you are kind of using a dummy player, but essentially all you're doing is flipping over an order card, and then whatever that is, you place that your opponent's cheese on that one of the available locations that you're at. So there's not like, oh, I have to go through and really manage or upkeep this kind of dummy player. I think the solo mode worked really well. So I do think that it adjusts really well and easily for the different player counts that you can play with it. My favorite part about this game is how it implements worker placement and just the timing element that goes into this game. Because when you place a worker, you don't get to recall that worker until it's facing you. And so inevitably, you know every single time you're placing exactly how many turns it's going to take for you to get that worker back. And I just thought that was fascinating. Yes. Honestly, just that it's such a simple thing, but it's implemented so well in the game. It is so entertaining. It is so fun. It keeps you on your toes. It gives you just that perfect amount of, okay, I really want to pull 3 order cards, but then if I do, I'm not going to get that worker for 3 whole turns, rounds. Yeah. So what worker of mine can I sacrifice for that, right? And I just thought it was fascinating, and it was so fun to dive into it. And honestly, after playing it, I just wanted to pull it out again. Because of that mechanism. And how
we did immediately play it again.
Yes, I think we did, yes. And then on top of that kind of worker placement aspect that you're doing, I love how it's all simultaneous action as well. So there's literally 0 downtime in this game. You just get your zone, you pick what you want, boom, then the board moves, and then you play again. It just plays so stinking fast, which I loved.
One of the things that I found was a fun and interesting and I guess kind of unique take on worker placement is that you can only play on the section that was immediately in front of you to choose what to do there. And you could either place one here and here. So like you have the option of, if you have 2 workers available to you, you can place here and here. Or if you only have one, like I do right now, I have to decide, okay, is it better for me to place the cheese on the fromagerie right now, or do I want to get the cows? So I have to like weigh the pros and cons of that and look and plan out, when am I going to get my guys back. With 2 players, I found it really charming, and it kind of felt like I was doing my own little thing, but still like had super fun doing it. But with 4 players, I definitely ran into that problem where it would turn around to me and someone was in the 2 spot, and then I'm like, one is too little,
and 3 is too much.
But do I want to wait 3 turns to do it? So it just, that was like a fun little element of, I guess, that where the player interaction can happen is being blocking.
This definitely is kind of like a point salad-y game. Essentially everything you are doing, all these little mini games, I kind of refer to them as little mini games that you're doing. Every placement is in the hopes of getting points. But having said all of that, something that one of my favorite parts of the game were these order cards that you will be collecting, because every time you place on a specific cheese, you are able to potentially fulfill orders. So I really liked this because it gave you something else to focus on. So like, for example, if a zone comes to you and you realize there's no way, for example, this area control, like I don't really have a good placement. I don't really have a way that I'm going to win this particular area right now. Well, then you can turn to the order cards and be like, even if you don't have a good placement, you can still place for orders potentially. So I liked how there was kind of that secondary level that you could turn to if something on the board wasn't really what you were wanting. Well, you still have the opportunity to get points.
Yeah, and that being said, it's even more than just the cards, because there were definitely a couple of games where I ignored the order cards, but I still beat Carly.
Yeah,
and it wasn't just from the board, but it was because there are 4 different things you're focusing on the board to get points, but there are possibly 3 different things that you're focusing on to get points
on your personal player board.
So like one is the order cards, one is the berries, which I had a lot of fun, whether it worked out for me or not. I had a lot of fun trying to plan out, okay, how many berries so whenever you're placing a cheese, and if you have a berry in your basket, right, okay, I'm putting that there. I don't know if that was the right spot. But then when I do that, then I get to move my berry over to my fruity cheese spot. And then at the end of the game, you get to multiply however many berries you have times your jam. Yeah. So that there was one game where I got like a whole bunch of points based from that because I had like
you had a ton of jam. Yeah.
And then the other thing is if you were able to get your top building here, that is a good way to get you points. So like in this one, for instance, this is a good one to have and compare it with trying to do the order cards because you get 1 extra point for every order card
exactly
that you have. So there is all these different secondary things that you can do to also earn points, and I liked it. It felt like I had a different strategy every time I was playing. Which that brings me to the player boards. So each of these player boards are different, and that the goals that they give you are different. And then on top of that, there are these tiles that you can draft
at the beginning of the game.
At the beginning of the game, and switch out or to replace these. And so I literally every game that I've played, I kind of went with a different strategy. And maybe some people don't like having a focused direction, but I do. I like being okay, this is my goal. Let's see if I can complete it.
Yes.
And I loved that direction.
I really liked how each of the mini games really the placement felt different than all the other placements.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done, really interesting. I did want to very briefly kind of touch on the solo mode because I thought they did a really good job with the solo mode, and I really liked this game solo. So when you do play solo, each of these player boards has a different corporation on the back, basically a different level of solo mode. So you can have the easiest level, working way up all the way to the highest. And essentially all that you do is you just place the opponent color cheese on all these locations. And every time you go to place, or I think the solo mode actually works first, but you basically just flip over an order card and then you place one of the cheeses, working from left to right on a location that has that particular cheese. So you just go ahead and place, and then you can make your move. So it was really simple to operate, and I think it did a really good job. I really liked the solo mode for this game.
We talked about how quick the game is. At game night, for instance, we pulled it out. We were able to get a game in right at the beginning of game night, and it's a good opening game, but doesn't feel like it's a fluff.
Yes.
Or just a filler, but it is kind of the same amount of time as that, but it had more depth to it than just a filler game.
Yeah.
And that was something that I really loved. And so I'm it would be so easy to pull it out weeknight when you're tired, or I want to play a quick game with the kids before bed. It just fits that spot for me.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Is that thing? I think you explained that perfectly, because this is such a light game. I mean, if it was any longer, I probably wouldn't like this game, but because it is such a fast, quick moving game, I enjoy the lightness of the puzzle here.
Yeah.
I think it is a fun, like you said, it's a fun game to start off game night, end game night, where you don't really have to think too hard. You just kind of, your zone turns to you, and you just kind of do the best with what you can, make your move, and then go. It feels quick. It feels light. It was really fun to dive into, and I liked all of the little mini puzzles that you were doing. It was really engaging for me, and all that puzzle on top of the puzzle of what direction am I placing my worker, when are they going to face me back so I can recall them. It was just a fascinating kind of, I think the very first time we played this, I said, this kind of just feels like a breath of fresh air to me. It's a light game, a quick game, that has a little bit more thinkiness to it than some other games within this kind of time frame and lightness level. So having said all of that, I do have a couple things about the game that especially things that I could potentially see others not liking. So the first thing that I'm going to say, and I've already mentioned it before in the video, nothing about this game feels epic. This is not a big, robust, meaty game. I can see this being a game that frustrates some people too, because it is such a light game. You are placing, and you can't really plan ahead too much, especially with a 4-player game. When we played our 4-player game, there was a lot that was going on the board, and I was like, there's no way I can plan. It's a game you just have to kind of make your best move when you are in your particular zone. And then if you have some sort of plan, you just kind of have to hope that by the time the board gets around to you, that you still can execute that part of the plan, because most likely you won't be able to.
The major planning that happens is basically only with where Well, even then, the direction, but even then, sometimes the spots are taken.
Yes.
So you just have to, like, be like, okay, I'm going to put it here and know that I will get it back in 2 turns.
Yes.
That's like the extent of the planning that can happen, especially in a 4-player game.
So I can see some people just really not liking that about this game, having them be like, there's I have no control. I'm basically just placing. Having said that, I think that's where the order cards help me, because they do give me direction. If a zone comes into play and I realized, I'm not going to be able to fulfill that the way I wanted to, I can still fulfill my orders, or I can still fulfill my berries, or I can still work on something else despite that main puzzle. But it does kind of have that lack of being able to plan.
My biggest complaint, and I struggled with this especially at the higher count, was that I really wish they would have chosen different colors from the cheese, because anytime I played as blue, that's my secondary color if they don't have purple. Every time I would see the blue, I would see like the bottom, I would see the blue cheese, and I would think it was like me, and I would think that was my character. But it's like it took.
And it wasn't just you. I was struggling with that. I was struggling with that a lot. I wish, that the player colors would have been completely different. And I think the blue, I don't know, because the yellows or the oranges.
That was a little confusing too. And even just the.
And then there's a white color that again blends in. I don't know why they didn't do like bright, like purple or green or something. Again, it wouldn't have it might have looked a little bit different on the board, but it would have been easier from a gameplay standpoint, because you kept recalling like other people's cheeses, and then you'd be like, wait, that's not me. And then you'd be like, where were you? And then be like, I don't remember. So that is a hindrance, I think, to the game a bit.
And it just took more for a game that like I felt like was light and like puzzly, that worker placement recall took more brain effort than it should have. We touched on it a little bit. I did enjoy it at 4 players, but it did feel a little bit more chaotic at 4 players.
It was very chaotic at 4 players.
And it could have been alleviated maybe, like I had said, if the color changing was different. But like when there are tons of the players on the board, I just had a hard time being like, okay, wait, is mine facing mine now? Is mine facing me? Like having to constantly check that. It made my brain feel a little bit overwhelmed.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if I would play this with 4 players again, because it did kind of stress me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it is a fast moving game, and so because it is simultaneous action, like you turn the board, everybody reaches and grabs, and then you're like, okay, like trying your best to plan while there's so many different colors going on the board, and it did overwhelm me a little bit playing at 4 players. I loved it at 2 players.
Yes,
having said
too.
that, I think 2 players is kind of, and I have yet to play it with 3. We haven't had the chance to do that yet. I think 2 or 3 is going to be the sweet spot for this game. I do think 4 might be a little bit too overwhelming for me personally, just with the way my brain works.
Yeah, especially like when everyone is like, even though you're placing on your own individual corner, when you're retrieving, you're like, so there's lots of like reaching and grabbing like. And that kind of made it feel like, whoa!
Yeah, and it happens very quickly. Like at the beginning of every single round, because you make your placement, board turns, and everybody's like reaching, and then you place, and then board turns, and everybody's reaching again. Like it's happening constantly throughout the entire game. So having said all of that, let's kind of jump into our final thoughts and rating for Fromage. I'll go ahead and start. I really liked this game, despite my little qualms or everything that I said about it. I really fell in love with this game. I think primarily this is a 2-player game for me, 3-player game. I think 4 is probably a little bit too chaotic for me personally, but I loved all of the little mini games that you were doing. And again, I put them in my head as mini games. If you don't like mini games, you probably won't like this game, because there is a lot of it does feel just like 4 little mini games that you're trying your best to do. But for me, it just worked really well with my brain. I really enjoyed it. It was really interesting, especially every single time that board turned, to see what new puzzle I was working with. So I'm giving Fromage an 8.5. I really, really like this game. I can't stop thinking about it. I want to keep playing it. I pulled it out with Addie, and I was trying to play it with her, and she was like, I don't get it. I don't like it. And I was like, oh,
You're like,
crap. It makes me happy. It's fun. It's lighthearted, and it's quick enough that if somebody takes my move or does something, I'm like,
try again.
You try it again. Yeah, you try it again. You play it again. You say, oh well, too bad. Let's now pivot and try a different direction. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this game.
I will echo a lot of Carly's same thoughts. When we played it, like, the first time, it was like, I immediately fell in love. I was already in love with the cover, and then, like, just being able to play it and experience it. It was just so fun. The thing that I liked the most was being able to, I guess, have my, like, direction that I was going for and seeing how I could implement that through the game, like where I'm placing the workers and like tying that into my individual player board.
Yes.
And how they can like marry with each other. I am coming in at a solid 8. This game is a solid 8 for me. It was a great experience. I had fun playing it up 4 players, but it was, like we've talked about, was a little bit chaotic for my brain, and like, so that's why I think like it's not, because after we played it, I was like, oh man, I think I'm obsessed with this game. This is like one of the best games that we played of the year. Like, the artwork is amazing. But then after we played it with 4, I was like, wait, I don't know. There was something that like made it like step back for me after playing it with 4, which really surprised me because I thought it was going to play so well at 4 to have more of that player interaction. But maybe I just enjoy more of that kind of solitaire experience of seeing how my board and the game can like maximize the points, and then when you're playing with more people, that takes away from that.
I think when you play with 4 players, the board fills up double as fast, right? And it's a lot harder to get done what you want to get done.
Yeah, I wasn't able to meet any of my goals.
Yeah, because
so
that board is just filling up so fast, and it really does fill up fast. So yeah, I think that's why the 4-player was a little bit disappointing for us, because in 2 players, I feel like I had the time to be able to fully dive into the strategy that I wanted, and with 4 players, it was a little bit less so. Yeah. But having said that, you still really liked it.
And I still would play it at 4 players.
Yeah.
Because it does play so quick, and like I loved having it out at game night for the people that were there, or people who were like coming in late, or like at the end of the night, like, okay, we don't have time to like dive into another big game, but you know what, we could do this one. Yeah. So I don't know, it like fills a really, because we say it's like filler, but it's not. It's got more depth than like your typical filler, and so that's why I just think it's a really good, solid game that you should definitely have in your collection.
Yeah, so much fun.
Good Saturday morning brunch game.
Yes, it's a great brunch game. We need to do that list. Yes. I think we've talked about it multiple times.
Yeah, we have.
Brunch game list. I wanted to give a huge shout out to Road to Infamy Games for sending us this copy to review for you today. And if you enjoyed this review and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, it means so much if you could do that. It really helps support us in everything that we're doing over here. But until next time, we hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later. Hi. I want cheese now.
I know, me too.
Cheese and pretzels.
That's cheesy. See? We're good.
We're good. We got plenty of time.
Now I gotta go.
Now you gotta go.